a light shines through, exposing the frauds for who they are. Every time he creates. Introducing the boldest man on the net.
Lagrant Anthony on the Place to Be Blog Talk Radio Show.
If it feels alright, say yeah. I said, if it feels alright, say yeah. I said, if it feels alright, say yeah. If it feels alright, say yeah. Here we go, here we go, here we go.
Welcome back to the Saving Souls Blog Talk Radio Network. I would like to welcome all of our listeners from around the world and give a shout out to our sponsor, Mr. Dick Green out of Houston, Texas.
You are about to hear the reality of the many untold or hidden things that have taken place in this world we live in. The truth of these things are now springing forth as a flood, as if a levee of knowledge has broken free. If you are a person who despises the truth, enjoys your delusion, and rejects knowledge, please keep it moving and don't bother to waste your time with this video. Because what you are about to hear will cause you to rethink everything you thought you knew. It will challenge your mind to the very edge of consciousness. So if you are not used to positive brain activity that may stimulate thought and change, get up, cut the video off, and continue grazing in the grass as a lost sheep. Watch your television to keep your mind weak, drink the Kool-Aid of darkness, and go back to sleep. Shalom.
The chosen people of God, spoken of as Israel in the Bible, have been identified as African Americans now residing in the United States of America. The biological descendants of biblical Israelites, now classified as African Americans, are shown to be experiencing the prophesied biblical curses written in chapter 28 of the book of Deuteronomy.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life. In the morning thou shalt say, Would God it were even, and at even thou shalt say, Would God it were morning, for the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies, for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
The horrendous nightmare of the transatlantic slave trade and 400 years of bitter, agonizing, and painful degradation culminating into a traumatic lifestyle as Negro chattel slaves was not by chance but fulfillment of Bible prophecy. The unspeakable atrocities recently witnessed in Baton Rouge, Louisiana and Falcon Heights, Minnesota, involving the savage and unprovoked murders of ALTON and PHILANDO Castile by white law enforcement officers represent a small sample of perverted evils descendants of biblical Israelites were prophesied to experience in the latter days. It cannot be denied that African Americans are in fact the only race or nationality of people that fit the prophesied curses delineated in Deuteronomy 28:68.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies, for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
One time for the people who know, got so much going on. Can you hear me? Please come heal me. Yeah, because you know we need to be saved. Come save us. We need to be saved. Come save us. We need to be saved. We need to be saved. Keep moving on.
You know, it's a battle living within the belly of this beast. Your very mind and soul can feel like it's being digested and wasted away as a dandelion being pulled apart. It loves you not. All the while feeling dehydrated, navigating through the desert of this life, with no streams of stability or rivers of refuge to quench your thirst in sight. But whosoever seeks and finds the well of Yeshua shall never thirst again. I was given the Hebrew name Lamad Debar, which means to learn to study the word. One thing I've studied and learned about this life is that it's as watching a game in an arena. We're all watching the same game of life. The only difference is the individual seat or perspective in which one views the game. So nosebleeds or front row seats. True peace comes from seeking to see through the eyes of the one who's outside the seats.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, 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 oh.
The inhumane subjugation and degradation of African Americans began when the God of Abraham allowed an Edomite named Alexander the Greek to conquer Egypt. Alexander the Greek's defeat of Egypt and its black-skinned native people was the beginning of white European world rulership for the first time in history. Alexander the Greek, a descendant of Edom, was the progenitor or father of the first world empire to advocate the ideology of racial supremacy based upon skin color. Later, when European Romans, also descendants of Edom, came into world dominance, white European Romans in 70 AD attempted a total genocide of black-skinned biblical Israelites living in Jerusalem. However, the Romans were not successful in their attempt to completely eradicate all biblical Israelites. The God of Abraham preserved a remnant of Israel who escaped Jerusalem in 70 AD and settled on the west coast of Africa until they were brought to America on wooden ships as slaves by Columbus in 1492. In America, biblical Israelites served as slaves to their enemies as prophesied in Deuteronomy 28:68. Biblical Israelites were reclassified as Negroes and legally recognized as chattel property or subhuman farm animals. Negro chattel slaves were owned by the founding fathers of the United States of America and never identified as men, defined in the United States Constitution. In America, African Americans have never been fully accepted as equals to white-skinned Europeans. The DNA and beliefs of 18th century European slaveholders concerning matters of white racial supremacy has been passed down and inherited by today's white society. In America today, most if not all white-skinned men and women have internalized the ideology of white racial superiority and black racial inferiority. This racial hegemony is seen in every aspect of American culture. No American institution has escaped what Albert Einstein called a sickness of white Americans. The recent inhumane and unjust murders of ALTON Sterling and PHILANDO Castile by white law enforcement officers was nothing less than a plantation hanging. The recent episodes of murderous police conduct is nothing less than a systematic genocide and institutional subjugation of the descendants of biblical Israelites. Again, these racially motivated acts are not coincidental or random acts of violence, but prophesied by God to take place at the hands of Israel's enemies. Psalms 83 clearly identifies white Americans who are European descendants of Edom as the enemies of African Americans. Psalms 83 of the Bible clearly identifies white Europeans as Edom. That's E-D-O-M. The Bible expressly says Edom is the enemy of Israel. The historical lineage and wicked acts of Edom towards Israel are clearly documented in Scripture, including Alexander the Greek. Scripture also says God has not forgotten his chosen people and that he will gather the lost sheep of the house of Israel in the latter days. We are now living in the latter days. There is no one man, nor any economic plan, nor any political agenda or military strategy that can redeem God's chosen people from the bondage God has subjected them to in America. Our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against wicked spirits and principalities in high places. There is only one way for God's chosen people to escape the persecution and prophesied bondage of European Edomites. Do not be deceived by lying politicians and religious demagogues. The United States of America is not the land promised to God's chosen people. The United States of America is, in fact, the land of bondage prophesied where God's chosen people would be scattered to serve as slaves to their enemies. The United States of America is the land God promised to gather his chosen people out of in the latter days. What the God of Abraham promised to the lost sheep of the house of Israel is neither contained in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 nor Edom's promise of equality and justice through social integration. What the God of Abraham promised his chosen people is neither contained in the United States Constitution nor in civil rights legislation nor constitutional amendments. The carnal promises of Edom are not things African Americans should seek to possess at this critical point in American history. Signs of the times signify the United States of Edom and all its wicked deceptions will soon vanish. It is more important and most urgent that African Americans come to understand their true nationality as the biological descendants of biblical Israelites and seek those things God promised to them alone. It is most urgent that African Americans seek to possess the promises of their God and discontinue trying to integrate with European pagans expressly identified by God to be the enemies of Israel. What will it benefit a man to gain the riches of this world and lose his soul? The God of Abraham gave clear instructions regarding what his chosen people must do to receive his blessings and protection. As God's lost sheep scattered throughout the world, African Americans must recognize their biblical status as God's chosen people. African Americans must distinguish the God of Abraham from the pagan gods taught to them and their enslaved ancestors by European captors. For African Americans to be truly emancipated and free of their bondage and oppression in America, they must obey the commandment given to them by the God of Abraham in Scripture. For African Americans to receive their true freedom and true redemption from their prophesied bondage, oppression, and persecution in America, they alone must obey the instructions given to them in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, which says,
If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now mine eyes shall be open and my ears attent unto the prayer that is made in this place.
The senseless, rootless, and systematic murder of black men in America at the hands of ruthless white law enforcement officers is as American as apple pie. Like apple pie, African Americans have always been a consumable commodity in the eyes of European elitists. No one should be surprised that wolves will eat sheep when both live in the same barn house. When history is ignored, it repeats itself. When history is ignored, it repeats itself. When history is ignored, it repeats itself. The anger and frustrations felt by African Americans in 2016 because of the racially motivated murders of ALTON Sterling and PHILANDO Castile was also felt by African Americans in the 1960s after Martin Luther King Jr., Emmett Till, James Chaney, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, and thousands more were murdered at the hands of Edom. I think the message delivered to the nation on April 4, 1968 by Robert F. Kennedy is an appropriate message for today.
I have some very sad news for all of you, and I think sad news for all of our fellow citizens and people who love peace all over the world. And that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis. Martin Luther King dedicated his life to love and to justice between fellow human beings. He died in the cause of that effort. In this difficult day, in this difficult time for the United States, it's perhaps well to ask what kind of a nation we are and what direction we want to move in. For those of you who are black, considering the evidence evidently is that there were white people who were responsible, you can be filled with bitterness and with hatred and a desire for revenge. We can move in that direction as a country, in greater polarization, black people amongst blacks and white amongst whites, filled with hatred toward one another. Or we can make an effort, as Martin Luther King did, to understand and to comprehend and replace that violence, that stain of bloodshed that is spread across our land with an effort to understand and compassion and love. For those of you who are black and are tempted to be filled with hatred and mistrust of the injustice of such an act against all white people, I would only say that I can also feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling. I had a member of my family killed.